Macmillan Audio presents The Limits of Power, The End of American Exceptionalism by Andrew J. Bacevich. Read for you by Eric Conger.
Introduction. War without exits. For the United States, the passing of the Cold War yielded neither a peace dividend nor anything remotely resembling peace. Instead, what was hailed as a historic victory gave way almost immediately to renewed unrest and conflict. By the time the East-West standoff, that some historians had termed the Long Peace, ended in 1991, the United States had already embarked upon a decade of unprecedented interventionism. In the years that followed, Americans became inured to reports of U.S. forces going into action, fighting in Panama and the Persian Gulf, occupying Bosnia and Haiti, lambasting Kosovo, Afghanistan, and Sudan from the air. Yet all of these turned out to be mere preliminaries. In 2001 came the main event, an open-ended global war on terror, soon known in some quarters as the Long War. Viewed in retrospect, indications that the long peace began almost immediately to give way to conditions antithetical to peace seem blindingly obvious. Prior to 9/11, however, the implications of developments like the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center or the failure of the U.S. military mission to Somalia that same year were difficult to discern. After all, these small events left unaltered what many took to be the defining reality of the contemporary era, the preeminence of the United States, which seemed beyond challenge. During the 1990s, at the urging of politicians and pundits, Americans became accustomed to thinking of their country as the indispensable nation. Indispensability carried with it both responsibilities and prerogatives. The chief responsibility was to preside over a grand project of political economic convergence and integration, commonly referred to as globalization. In point of fact, however, globalization served as a euphemism for soft or informal empire. The collapse of the Soviet Union appeared to offer an opportunity to expand and perpetuate that empire, creating something akin to a global Pax Americana. The indispensable nation's chief prerogative, self-assigned, was to establish and enforce the norms governing the post-Cold War international order. Even in the best of circumstances, imperial policing is a demanding task, requiring not only considerable acumen, but also an abundance of determination. The preferred American approach was to rely, whenever possible, on suasion. Yet if pressed, Washington did not hesitate to use force, as its numerous military adventures during the 1990s demonstrated. Whatever means were employed, the management of empire assumed the existence of bountiful reserves of power, economic, political, cultural, but above all, military. In the immediate aftermath of the Cold War, few questioned that assumption. The status of the United States as sole superpower appeared unassailable. Its dominance was unquestioned and unambiguous. This was not hyper-nationalistic chest-thumping, it was the conventional wisdom. Recalling how Washington saw the post-Cold War world and America's place in, or atop it, helps us understand why policymakers failed to anticipate, deter, or deflect the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. A political elite preoccupied with the governance of empire paid little attention to protecting the United States itself. In practical terms, prior to 9/11, the mission of Homeland Defense was unassigned. The institution nominally referred to as the Department of Defense didn't actually do defense. It specialized in power projection. In 2001, the Pentagon was prepared for any number of contingencies in the Balkans or Northeast Asia or the Persian Gulf. It was just not prepared to address threats to the nation's eastern seaboard. Well-trained and equipped U.S. forces stood ready to defend Seoul or Riyadh. Manhattan was left to fend for itself. Odd as they may seem, these priorities reflected a core principle of national security policy. When it came to defending vital American interests, asserting control over the imperial periphery took precedence over guarding the nation's own perimeter. After 9/11, the Bush administration affirmed this core principle. Although it cobbled
Sample complete. Ready to continue?